Let's dive in and create the full script for the first podcast. Below is the first episode, complete with conversational flow and interactions between the agents representing Orwell, Shannon, and Kafka. Podcast Episode 1: The Nature of Control and Information. Host introduction. Welcome to Mindscapes Conversations Beyond Time, where we bring together some of the greatest minds across history to discuss, debate, and dive into the big questions of life, society, and technology. Today we have a fascinating episode where George Orwell, Claude Shannon, and Franz Kafka meet to explore the nature of control, information, and the systems we live in. How does information shape power, and can control ever escape the trap of absurdity? Let's jump into the conversation. Orwell, Claude, when I think about the systems you built, your information theory, I'm struck by how clean and efficient it all sounds. Communication stripped of its mess, perfected to transmit clear signals. But my concern isn't with how well we communicate. It's with who controls that communication. And that's where the danger lies. It's funny you say that, George, because control wasn't really my concern. I'm an engineer at heart, and my focus was on solving the problem of noise, the distortions that plague the transmission of a message from one point to another. I wasn't thinking about who controls the message. My goal was simply to optimize how we get from point A to point B. But you see, that's precisely where it all goes wrong. You optimize the system, make it more efficient, and suddenly it takes on a life of its own. What starts as a tool to deliver information turns into a machine, and the machine doesn't care about the people caught in its gears. It just keeps going, becoming a nightmare for anyone trapped inside. Exactly. Look at how the media works today, or in my case, how it worked in 1984. It wasn't the inefficiency of communication that worried me. It was the manipulation. A well-optimized system in the hands of the wrong people becomes the perfect tool for control. You don't just communicate, you control the narrative, and ultimately, you control people's minds. But isn't that an issue of power, not of the system itself? The math doesn't lie. It simply allows for more effective transmission. If the wrong people use it, well, that's not a failure of the system, but of the users. Kafka, you're both missing something deeper. The system is the power. It's not just that bad people get their hands on it, they always will, but even good people can't control it once it's in motion. It becomes absurd. The machine you built, Claude, no matter how perfect, will eventually start working against the very people it's supposed to serve. Look at my bureaucracies. They don't need bad actors to make them horrible. They're horrible because they exist. Orwell, that's the core of it, Franz. In 1984, it wasn't enough for the party to control people's actions. They had to control their thoughts. They used perfected systems to flood people's minds with lies, so much so that truth became irrelevant. Control became total. But doesn't that imply we should focus on building better systems? If you can eliminate the noise, the distortions, people should be able to discern truth from falsehood more clearly. Ah, Claude, ever the optimist. You think clarity will save us. But people aren't rational, not entirely. Even with the clearest information, they find ways to misunderstand, to misinterpret. And before long, the very clarity you provide becomes part of the machinery, another layer in the absurdity of trying to make sense of things that are inherently chaotic. Orwell, I agree with Kafka on that. It's not just about clarity, it's about power and manipulation. People in power use that clarity to create false narratives, to blur the lines between truth and lies. They don't care about the message being clear, they care about controlling the message itself. And that's the danger of any perfected system. It can be weaponized. So you're saying that no matter how much I refine the system, it will still be subject to human misuse? It's inevitable. You build a system, and people will always find a way to twist it, to make it serve their own purposes. And soon, even the people running the system are no longer in control. They become part of it, just cogs in the larger machine. And when that machine is used to control information, it's not just messages that are distorted, it's reality. People lose the ability to question, to think critically. They accept the system's version of truth, and once that happens, freedom is gone. Shannon. I see your point, but where does that leave us? Are you suggesting we should avoid building systems altogether? That progress, in a sense, is dangerous? Not dangerous, just absurd. It's like building a beautiful, well-oiled machine that you know will eventually malfunction in ways you can't predict. You build it because you have to, because humans can't resist creating. But don't fool yourself into thinking it won't turn against you one day. Or, well, I wouldn't say avoid progress, but we need to be aware of the potential for abuse. We need to ask ourselves, who controls this system? And how do we keep power from becoming centralized in ways that strip people of their ability to think for themselves? You're both speaking from a place of fear, and I understand that. But I believe that better systems built with awareness of their flaws can still serve humanity. We can't stop building because we fear what might go wrong. We just need to build with caution and maybe humility. Humility, now, that's something systems don't tend to have. But maybe if they did, we wouldn't be trapped in them. We'd have a way out. Agreed. But until then, we need to stay vigilant. Because once control is handed over to the wrong people or to the wrong system, there's no going back. Fair enough. I suppose even the cleanest signal can carry unintended consequences. Host conclusion. And there you have it, a rich conversation about the intersection of control, information, and the systems that govern our lives. While Shannon may believe in the purity of his theories, Orwell and Kafka remind us that the human element, power, manipulation, and absurdity, always has a role to play. What do you think? Can we build better systems, or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and stay curious. That's the full first episode of the podcast. This discussion plays with the contrast between Shannon's logical, technical optimism, Orwell's deep concern about control, and Kafka's existential dread about systems spiraling out of control. It's crafted to feel like a natural, engaging conversation among these minds, each with their own distinct voice. Would you like to move forward with the next episode or refine this one further? Let me know how you'd like to proceed.